across the country and around the world, this is the Life Midwest Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm your host, Kevin Palmer, and this week we are going to finally finish up the discussion of the pandemic. Not necessarily the pandemic, but the results and the effects and what you might have, the changes you might have gone through in your life from the pandemic, right? I don't want to spend too much time this week recapping. If you're not familiar with what we're talking about, head back to episode 31. Obviously, we took a few breaks in there talking about, different, we had our interview with Ace and special guest host Lenny, who's actually going to be back next week, by the way. So tune back in for that. Check that out. Excited to have him on. Not going to spoil what we're talking about, but he brings an interesting topic to light that I'm very excited to discuss with you all on this platform here. Also, of course, checked in with Wes last week. Was really excited to talk to him again, get him back on the show. I'm sure many people enjoyed and have missed hearing from him and all his adventures / misadventures. That is, getting a foreigner to the States through a marriage visa, I believe it's technically called. So yeah, now that you're all caught up to speed and you've gone back and listened to those episodes if you need to. Actually, I did a really great recap back in episode 34. So if you want the TLDR, the too long didn't read, head back to episode 34 for me. And that's going to be a great way to get yourself a recap, there towards the beginning of the episode as to what we're going to be wrapping up today with the pandemic. Again, making life choices for the better and sticking with those, even though facing, some obstinance or some opposition from the people in your life, whether it be from ulterior motives or, God, who knows what else, right? I think people are crazy. Let's start there, right? Today's episode is going to be really off the cuff. I don't have a script for you, nothing. People are fucking nuts, dude. They get so upset and so mad at you over shit that just technically shouldn't be any skin off their ass, yet here they are getting mad at you and saying, oh, we need to have a serious conversation about our friendship or our relation or whatever. I just think I want to start there and say that you don't owe anybody anything. So this week's episode is really going to focus on staying strong. And we kind of talked about it last week, right? When we talked about, Jessica and her MLM and her not wanting you to downsize your car because you always help her with her business so that she doesn't have to invest in a larger car for her ventures or whatever, which I think is a pretty good example. But I also think about how, we're going to face moments in this transition of self-doubt. I think that's more so where I want to head today is we're gonna talk about that self-doubt that kind of creeps into our brain when when we're running low on the serotonin and when we're really just not sure if we're cut out for this life. I want to first start off by saying, first and foremost, I have those thoughts too. If you have them, I'm telling you, I don't want to say it's normal, but I know for a fact that you are not the only person that experiences those things. And it's not even necessarily like a call to the void as far as like, I wonder what would happen if I died today, or I wonder what would happen if I jumped off this building. Not anything like that, which, by the way, if you're looking for more information on Call to the Void, episode 9, some real hot takes in there from Wes and I. I think that, we really get caught up in being so critical of ourselves because we are our own worst critic at the end of the day. I think no one is harsher on ourselves than we are for the most part. I think everyone, knows someone who's got like a parent or somebody who's just like, you're not making good decisions, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, life is more than just appeasing your parents just because they didn't get to live the life they wanted. Okay, there's your second hot take of the day. But in all seriousness, self-doubt. Let's talk about self-doubt. Where does it come from? I think it can be rooted back to our childhood for many of us with bullying. I think it can also come from this, maybe we failed at a lot of things growing up. And I don't want to attribute it all to our childhood, but I think that's when we're our most moldable. That's when we are at our most impressionable point of our lives, is childhood and kind of our upbringing. And I would argue even adolescence, right? And I think that if you experience a lot of failures or a lot of struggles, I think that doesn't help with your confidence. Maybe you didn't have a great social life. Maybe you didn't have a whole lot of friends. Maybe you had some good ones. Maybe it was, more so quality over quantity. I think the people who are, who grow up to be extroverts and they have lots of friends and they know everybody and they have 1,000 friends on Facebook, I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't experience self-doubt, but they are far less likely to. I think they are far less likely to have those sort of social obstacles because they're used to people liking them. And that's not a bad thing, and that's not a dig at those people. If you're one of those people who has a lot of friends and you don't experience a lot of self-doubt, like, there's nothing wrong with that. More power to you. It's just that, let's put it this way. I really want to talk to those who benefited from watching the video of Steve from Blue's Clues that went all over the internet a couple of weeks ago. How's that? If you were deeply moved or affected by that, today's episode is for you. No, just kidding. Really sit there and think about today why you might doubt yourself. You don't have to have the answer, but I think a lot of people are very good at being self-analytical and self-aware when they experience a lot of self-doubt. And you think about where that comes from. Is it your childhood? Is it something more recent? Is maybe everything was fine until you got into your 20s and then you're like, oh shit, this is it. And I know I've made that point before. Or maybe you're someone who made it all the way to your 20s and you've had some really bad dating experiences. Your trust has been nothing but broken and stomped on and shattered. Or maybe you just haven't found the right person yet and you feel like time's running out. I think we all go through that phase, especially during our 20s. And yes, love isn't everything, and it's not our entire center of confidence. I don't want to say, oh, go get a boyfriend or a girlfriend and fall in love with them and everything will be fine. No, but I'm saying the lack of one or the presence of a bad one can affect your confidence. I'm just trying to throw different ideas there to jog your thought process. Like I said, it may not be something from your 20s. It may not be something from your childhood. But I'm just trying to think of the most common scenarios from either of those 2 points of life, assuming that you're less than 30. If you're older than 30, then yeah, maybe you've had an experience within your job or career. Not to say that you can't have had that already in your 20s, but it's just more likely the older you are. And I think that that's important to consider too. Is your job itself not producing that serotonin? Is it not satisfying you? Is it not producing that confidence boost? And the reason why I'm spending so much time talking about this too, folks, is life is a series of consequences and experiences. I think those consequences and those experiences really help shape how we view and feel about life. And so if we feel or view life in this pessimistic or downtrodden way, not only is it going to be hard to make those changes for the better, it's going to be hard to stick with them, especially if you face any opposition. So I'm just trying to connect some dots for you today. That's all. So the scenario, let me give you a scenario. So the one that we've been rolling with is you start working out and because you want to lose weight and you discover this passion for, exercise and working out, and it leads you to stop spending your Saturdays at work just to get overtime because you find it more important and more beneficial to lead a healthy life. And this fits really well because if you're at a point where you were motivated or self-motivated enough to say, you know what, I want to start taking care of myself and working out, I don't want to make any assumptions, but would you consider yourself out of shape? Would you consider yourself overweight or just not having taken care of yourself? I would argue probably. Stick with me, even that if that's not the case for some odd reason, but stick with me on this. So let's say that's the case, right? So now you're going to turn around and you're going to say, okay, because of these issues that I'm now trying to take care of, I have low self-confidence. And I think that only makes your journey harder to start. But once you start, it's not over because now, again, you're facing that opposition from your coworkers who directly or indirectly may resent you because now you're no longer, spending your Saturdays with them, and it consequentially makes their job harder, which again isn't your fault, but they're going to portray it that way because they want you to come back. They understand that you might be benefiting, yourself from it, whatever, but it's not benefiting them, and it's hurting them, and it's affecting them. It's not your job to give a shit about, by the way. Just a reminder, it's your boss's job to give a shit and fix that. Unless you're getting paid what your boss is getting paid. I don't know. So you overcome the opposition to start making that change. And then you overcome the opposition from your coworkers to make that change. And the only enemy left in your way is yourself. Maybe you're not seeing that progress fast enough. Maybe you've been at it for a week and you haven't lost a single pound. Maybe you've been at it for a month and you haven't lost a single pound. Or maybe you have, but you thought you'd be at 10 pounds by now, and you're only at 4 or 5. And 5 pounds you might write off and say, well, we always, everybody's weight kind of fluctuates a few pounds up and down as they, eat and digest and whatever. You start making excuses for yourself, like, oh man, maybe I really wasn't cut out for this at all. Coming up on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about why that's a line of shit. Stick around. Welcome back, everyone, to the Life Midwest podcast, the show about a place on Earth. Yep, I'm reusing that one because it is gold. Hey, if you're looking for ways to support us, you can donate to us. It does cost money to run the show. PayPal.me/TheLifeMidwest. There's also many different ways you can reach out to us and support us for free, including all of our major social platforms at The Life Midwest. You can also email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. Maybe you just have a thought that you want to share with us, or you heard something on the show that really tickled your bones, whether that be in a funny way or a meaningful way, and you want us to talk about it, or you want to talk about it with us. You can even leave something anonymous if you really want to. However you see fit in supporting this venture of Wes and I's. We'd also appreciate a review left on iTunes or any of your favorite listening platforms, however you tune in to us on Saturdays. We do have the 6 5-star reviews on iTunes. And yes, I have more than 6 friends, which is why it's embarrassing that we only have 6 5-star reviews. We do also have the 1 written review, so if you have time to type something up real nice, we can make it 2, maybe 3. Let's see what we can get done in a week. What do you say, folks? And if you just want to hang out and enjoy the show, that's cool too. Maybe throw me a text. Let me know that you're enjoying the show, though. I don't want it to feel like I'm talking to a wall every week, or a monitor, or a window. I'm just naming all the objects in front of me. So before the break, we were talking about why the self-doubt and the excuses for not seeing progress fast enough in the change that you're trying to make is just that third layer of bullshit. It's that third layer of opposition. Remember, the first is excuses as to why you can't do it. The second is opposition from others who don't want you to do it. And now we're kind of looking in the mirror saying, this just isn't happening fast enough for me. Just not happy with it. And we're going to stick with that example of working out and losing weight because it's just such an easy one. But you know that you can apply it to all different walks of life. You can apply it to so many different scenarios. I'm going to start this part of the show by saying this. This is hot take number 3 of the day. There is always a million reasons to not do something that you actually deep down don't want to do. If you don't want to do something, you will find a reason to not do it. You are making excuses for something that you know that you are capable of doing. You are capable of finishing. Everyone in this world is capable of doing what they want to do. Does it require more willpower for some of us than others? Abso-fucking-lutely. Does that mean that we shouldn't do it just because we're at a disadvantaged role, or we should cry, woe is me? No, not at all. But I will tell you this. If you're somebody who faces that extra opposition more than the average person, maybe you have someone in your life that you started working out with and they're just dropping pounds and you're not. Is that a reason for you to stop? No. You know what it is, though? It's a fucking reason for you to get that much more amped, that much more excited about what you accomplish once you get to the other side. Are you going to have to put in more work? Sure. Is it going to be harder? Sure. Are you going to be happy? Probably not, because you had to push through something, right? So you're going through the same scenario as somebody else, and you're just not having as good of a grand old time as they are. Does that mean stop? No, it does not. What it does mean is that you get to brag. You get to say, you know what? It was harder for me, and I still came out on the other side. That is a way to pat yourself on the back without invalidating someone else's same or similar achievement. So hold on to that one. Because here comes hot take number 4 of the day. I don't know how many more I have, but here's hot take number 4. It is always worth doing something, even if you're bad at doing it. Everything is worth doing, even if you're bad at doing it. I forget where I read that, and I think I messed up the phrasing. But what it essentially means is that anything that you deem worth doing, anything that you actually end up doing, even if you're bad at it, I tell you a secret, you still did it. Sitting there in the car, standing there in the kitchen, laying there in bed listening to this podcast, you still fucking did it. You. Who cares if you did it badly? It is worth bragging about something that you did poorly to somebody who didn't do it at all in the first place. Because you still did it. Mac is barking. And maybe, you know what? Mac agrees. That's what that is. There might be someone at the door, but Mac knows how passionate I feel about this, and he agrees. I'll level with you too. And maybe Mac is barking because he knows this, but I was at a wedding earlier this month, and I don't do really great in big, giant, overstimulating social situations, right? What I really am not good at is dancing. I can slow dance. Oh, I can slow dance like nobody's business. But when Lil Jon and the East Side Boys comes on, I am out of there, okay? There was a song that came on that I was one of the groomsmen in the wedding. And there was a song that came on that my buddy is just, he's really into, he really enjoys. He is also a silly white boy who can't dance, okay? But he enjoys the song. And he turned around and he looked at me. And he kind of gave me that look like, hey, come do this one. Come on. Let's make an ass out of ourselves. And I think there was that like, and all the excuses started rolling, right? I'm not good at it. I'm going to embarrass myself. I don't like how I'm going to be perceived by others. And all of these, that million reasons of why I don't want to do something started to come through. But then I remembered that saying of anything worth doing is worth doing poor. That was the phrase. Anything worth doing is worth doing bad or poorly. And I was like, yeah, that's honestly, that's a really good point, because if I don't go out there, then it's just going to look like I'm an antisocial jerk who is just too good to go have fun on a dance floor, let loose and just continue to be uptight. So instead, I went out there and I danced poorly. And you know what? I don't think anyone gave a shit, because it's a wedding and most people are drunk at a wedding. Most. The ones who are, they're more focused on how they're not having a good time anyways, because they're the DD. All right, all right. Here's what I'm going to say. Metaphorically, I think we find ourselves at that wedding too much. I think we do have someone in our life who's kind of nudging us in a certain direction. And it's uncomfortable. And it doesn't feel good. And all that person's trying to do is better us. or at least help us have a little bit of fun. I think it's easy to forget about that because we get so wrapped in ourselves and how we're going to be perceived and what if we fail. But just go out and do it poorly. Because you know what? If you go out and do it, you're never going to have to sit there and go, what if I didn't do that? What if I had done that? I'm not saying your life will be any different if you go out there and make an ass out of yourself when Journey comes on at a wedding, which is exactly what I do, by the way. It's kind of like an obligatory white boy thing. I think it's a white person thing, let's be real. Go out there. Get on the dance floor. Even if it's only for one song. Go get on the dance floor. And that's where we're going to leave it this week, folks. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. It's time for our shout-outs. I want to shout out Wes Shirley this week. He's going to be back pretty soon, actually. It's probably only a couple of weeks away at this point. We're hoping by the end of the month here. So, or before Halloween, actually, is the goal I think we set on the show there. So, not that that's an expectation, but just something that we can all look forward to. Something else that we can look forward to is finally being done talking about the ramifications of setting goals after the pandemic. I really hope you enjoyed kind of these different talking points that I had. I felt really good about it. I really enjoyed doing more of the uplifting, inspirational, motivational podcast. Probably going to try to find more ways to do that don't necessarily involve the pandemic or the effects of it. But if you are going through that right now, there's a shout out for you today. There's a shout out for you today to get on the dance floor. Make an ass out of yourself for one song. Try it. Try it. Character isn't just who you are when no one's watching. Character is who you are when you ignore those who are watching. There's hot take number 5, folks. Also want to shout out Lenny. Appreciate him having been on a couple of episodes. I'm sure we're going to have him on in the future as well. Shout out to Mac for being very vocal about how much he agreed with my passionate points that I made earlier in the episode. Remember, you can support us monetarily at paypal.me/thelifemidwest. Reach out to us at all of our major social platforms at The Life Midwest. You can also, of course, email us at support at, you guessed it, The Life Midwest. Until then, folks, call your mom. All right, I call mine like 3-4 times a week. Call your mom. Have a good one. And we will talk to you guys next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Have a good one. Take care.